Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some cinnamon roll focaccia. So this is going to be focaccia bread, and I'm going to sprinkle some cinnamon sugar over it, fold it up a little bit, and then press it out and sprinkle more cinnamon on and bake it. So it's not going to be cinnamon rolls that you roll up into a log and cut into slices and then stand them on their ends and bake like that. But it will have the same sort of flavours, but with that lovely texture of the focaccia bread. And then to go on top, just a little bit of cream cheese frosting. And how much of that you make and use is entirely up to you. I'm not going to go over the top with that because I don't need it to be extra sweet. So it's going to take a while because the focaccia does take some time to proof and such like, but it will be worth it in the end. And I'll go on to the ingredients. And these ingredients will be enough to make a focaccia which is 12 inches by 9 inches, or you could do, you can vary the pan size, 13 by 9, 11 by 7, things like that. Whatever you want, basically, it will fit in. So I have 450 grams, 3 cups of strong white bread flour. I have 6 grams, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, 85 millilitres, 5 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of milk at room temperature, 240 millilitres, 1 cup of water at room temperature, 85 grams, 6 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, and I'm going to divide that. I'm going to use some in the dough and the remainder for drizzling over the dough as we work with it later. 20 grams, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, caster sugar I'm using, 9 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. That's for the focaccia dough. And then I have 100 grams, half a cup of caster sugar, and 14 grams, 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. How much ground cinnamon you use is a matter of taste. You can use more or less depending on what you want. And then for the icing, I have 115 grams, just about 1 cup of icing sugar, 5 millilitres, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 85 grams, 6 tablespoons of cream cheese, and 28 grams, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, fairly soft. So that's all the ingredients, but we don't need this half of the ingredients for quite some time yet, so they can be set aside, and we'll go on to make the dough. And I'm going to use my stand mixer for making the dough. You can do it by hand, and you can use any type of stand mixer you want. I'm going to put the milk into the bowl along with the water, and then the yeast and the sugar, and I'm just going to give that a mix around to get those a little bit combined. And it just occurs to me that maybe I didn't mention the weight of the yeast. It's 6 grams, 2 teaspoons. And that's good enough. So then I'm going to pour in about half of my flour, and it doesn't have to be exact, and sprinkle over my salt, and then put the remaining flour in as well. And I'm going to mix that just on a low speed until it becomes a shaggy dough. And that's good enough for a shaggy dough. So now I'm going to mix that continuously, kneading it for 15 to 20 minutes until it's very elastic and stretchy, but it will still be sticky. And what I'm going to do is, as it's kneading, I'm going to add in my butter, and I'm going to add it in a little bit at a time, and I'm going to add in 42 grams, 3 tablespoons, and I'll knead each time until it's incorporated, and once I've put in 3 tablespoons, that should be enough. And this is all part of the 15 to 20 minute kneading process. So I've kneaded my dough for a good 15 minutes, including the time for adding in the butter. Now I'm going to tip that out onto a lightly or a floured work surface, and I'm using the flour just because the dough will stick to my hands otherwise. So I've tipped the dough out, and it's very stretchy. I'm just going to put some flour on my fingers so I can show you that it's nice and stretchy. And I'm going to stretch that over on itself like that. And form it into a ball. Just like that. And then I'm going to put that into a greased bowl. So I've lightly greased a bowl. I'll put it in top side down like that, and then I'll turn it over. Like that, and I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap and put it in a warm place and leave it to proof for a couple of hours until it has at least doubled in size. And once it has doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. It's been about 2.5 hours and my dough has more than doubled in size now. So what I'm going to do before we work on the dough is put my sugar for the cinnamon sugar and the cinnamon into a larger bowl, and I'm going to give those a mix around. That's good enough. So then I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to put it into my pan, which is greased. You can grease that with butter or with a little bit of oil, it's up to you. And for ease, I'm going to take a little bit of my melted butter onto my hands, because I want to spread this dough out like that. And then I just wipe my hands a little bit. I'm going to take about half of my cinnamon sugar, maybe a little bit less, but maybe about half, and I'm going to sprinkle it over the dough. And if some goes into the pan, that's fine. So that's maybe a quarter of it, and I'm going to take my dough and fold it up 1/3 like that, and fold the other third over the top, and then I'm going to pick it up as best I can, turn it round, flatten it again, and sprinkle the remaining half, or the remainder of my first half, onto the dough again. And I'm going to take a little bit of butter and drizzle that over this portion. Just like that. Then I'm going to fold it as before, turn it round, and I'm going to press it down again like that, and I'm simply going to cover that with plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave that for about an hour until it has risen a lot more, and then I'll come back in an hour and we will sprinkle more cinnamon sugar over it and drizzle a little bit more butter before we leave it to rise for the final time. So my dough has been left for another hour, and it's puffed up quite nicely, so I'm going to spread it out as well as I can, so that's almost into the corner. So I'm going to take some more of my melted butter and I'm going to drizzle that over the top. Just like that. And then I'm going to sprinkle as much of the remaining caster sugar on as I want to. Caster sugar with cinnamon, I should say. And that's good enough. And I'm then going to just make some dimples in the dough like that. And I'm going to cover it again. and I'm going to leave it for about another hour, 45 minutes to an hour, until it becomes puffy. And as that time comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees Celsius, 180 Celsius with a fan, 390 Fahrenheit, ready to bake the cinnamon roll focaccia. So I'll come back when this has puffed up and my oven is preheated, then I'll put it into the oven and bake it. So my dough has now been resting for about an hour, and I have my oven preheated. So I'm going to put it into the oven now, and I'm going to bake it for between 25 and 35 minutes, probably nearer to 30 minutes, until the internal temperature reaches at least 87 degrees, which I think is about 190 Fahrenheit. And I'll test it with my thermometer, but you'll be able to tell it will rise up quite nicely, and it will sort of be quite firm to the touch if you were to press it down. So I'll bake this for 25 to 35 minutes, then I'll take it out of the oven and transfer it to a wire rack and allow it to cool completely. And once it has cooled completely, I'll come back and make the cream cheese frosting to go on the top. I baked my cinnamon roll focaccia for 25 minutes, and I tested it with my thermometer, and it tested up at over 90 degrees Celsius, so I knew that it was baked inside. So I took it out of the oven and put it onto a wire rack to cool down. So it's cooled down, and I'll show you what it looks like at the moment. And it's baked up very nicely, and I've cut mine into 12 3-inch squares, but you can cut it any way you want, and you can see how the little bands of cinnamon are in the dough there, because I've taken one piece out. So what I'm going to do is to make my cream cheese frosting and then drizzle that over the top. And to make the frosting, I'm going to put all the ingredients into the bowl that has the icing sugar. So I'll put my cream cheese in. And the butter. And my vanilla extract. And then I'm going to mix that, and you can do this again by hand. I'm going to mix it on a low speed with my hand mixer and until it's all fully combined. I'll start on a low speed, then I can speed up as the sugar starts to incorporate into the other ingredients. And that mixed together very quickly. And I should say that you can adjust the consistency of that by adding a little drop more liquid if you want to make it runny or runnier, or you can add more icing sugar to make it thicker. But that's a consistency which I will easily be able to pipe, so I think I'll pipe mine over the dough. So I'll put that into a piping bag. But you can use a a spoon and drizzle it over if you want to. And I'm not going to pipe a great deal on mine. I'm just going to squeeze it all over, just like that. Now, I can leave that to set up a little bit before I have a taste. But for convenience, I'll have a taste of one piece now. I'll have a taste of this piece, which is smaller. That's very good. It has the consistency and texture of a lovely focaccia bread, but then with the cinnamon sugar running through it as well, and that creamy icing on the top, all goes together very, very well indeed. So this is a nice variation on cinnamon buns or cinnamon rolls with that lovely focaccia bread. That's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.